She thought opening the marriage would give her freedom to cheat without consequences, but when I discovered her manipulation, I turned the tables, ending everything on my terms and leaving her to face of regret she brought entirely upon herself. She brought it over dinner at our favorite Italian place. Sarah had this way of making terrible ideas sound reasonable, like she was discussing weekend plans instead of blowing our 5-year relationship. I've been thinking about us, Jake, about how we could grow together. I should have known right then. When Sarah used words like growth and exploration, trouble was coming. But I was clueless, into my chicken parmesan like an, what do you mean? I asked, genuinely curious. We'd been engaged for 8 months. Wedding planning was going great. Her parents loved me. My parents adored her. Everything was perfect. I think we should consider opening our marriage. The fork stopped halfway to my mouth. Around us, couples laughed and clinked glasses while my world tilted sideways. Open marriage, like seeing other people. Sarah nodded, her green eyes bright with excitement I'd never seen before. Not even when I proposed. Think about it. We're young. We've only been with each other seriously. Don't wonder what else is out there, what we might be missing. I didn't wonder. I'd found everything I wanted in Sarah. 5 years together, living together for 3. She was my best friend, my future wife, the mother of my future children. But seeing her face light talking about other people, that stung. I never really thought about it. I said slowly. That's because I'm loyal. It's one of the things I love about. She reached across the table, taking my hand. But loyalty doesn't mean we have to limit ourselves. We could set boundaries, be honest, who could make us stronger. The waiter refilled our glasses. Normal couples were having normal conversations around us while mine fell apart in slow motion. I need to think about this, I said. Sarah's smile faltered for just a second. Of course, take all the time need, but she didn't let it drop. Over the next 2 weeks she brought it constantly. Articles about successful open marriages appeared on our coffee table. She shared Instagram posts about evolved relationships and breaking societal constraints. Look at Marcus and Jennifer, she said one morning, showing me her phone. They've been open for 3 years and they're happier than ever. Marcus was her coworker. Tall, confident, always posting gym selfies. I'd met him at company parties. He'd never looked at Sarah weird or anything, but now I wondered. Since when do you follow Marcus so closely? I asked. We're just friends, Jake, work friends. He's helping me understand this stuff. Work friends, right? The pressure was subtle but constant. Sarah would mention how traditional relationships were failing all around us. Her friend Emma was getting divorced. My buddy Tom was cheating on his wife. Least we'd be honest about our needs, Sarah said one night in bed. No lees, no sneaking around. I loved her. I wanted to make her happy. And she made it sound so reasonable, so mature, like I was being childish for wanting her all to. Okay, I said finally. Let's try it. Her reaction should have been my first real warning. Pure relief washed over her face, like she'd been holding her breath for weeks. She me hard, more passionate than she'd been in months. Won't regret this, Jake. This is going to be amazing for us. We spent the weekend setting rules. No coworkers, she suggested this one, which should have been warning number 2. Always use protection. No sleepovers. Complete honesty about everything. And if either of us gets uncomfortable, we stop immediately. Sarah said. No questions asked. I agreed to everything. I was being the perfect boyfriend, giving her the freedom she craved. I felt mature and progressive. My friends would think I was crazy, but what did they know about modern relationships? Sarah, no time. She had her first date lined by Wednesday. His name is David. I met him at that new coffee shop downtown. He's a graphic designer, seems really sweet. She was practically glowing as she got ready. New dress I'd never seen. Perfume she usually saved for special occasions. She looked beautiful. She looked excited in a way that made my chest tight. Have fun, I said, kissing her goodbye. I'll be home by midnight. Promise. She came home at 2 a.m., hair messed, lips swollen, reeking of cologne that wasn't mine, but she texted me throughout the night. Dinner was good. David was funny. They went for drinks after. How was it? I asked, trying to sound casual. Nice, really nice. He's different from, more artistic. I guess it was refreshing. Refreshing. That word echoed in my head as she showered and came to bed. She fell asleep immediately, while I stared at the ceiling wondering what I'd agreed to. My first date was a disaster. I'd never used dating apps before Sarah. The whole thing felt awkward and wrong. I met a woman named Lisa at a bar downtown. She was pretty enough, but all I could think about was Sarah. Was she texting David right now? Were they making plans for date number 2? Lisa talked about her job in marketing while I checked my phone every 5 minutes. When she suggested going back to her place, I panicked and made some excuse about an early morning. This isn't working for me, I told Sarah the next morning. Just need practice, she said, scrolling through her phone with a little smile. David texted me good morning. Isn't that sweet, sweet? Sure. Sarah had her second date with David that Friday. Then a third the following Tuesday. She started mentioning him in casual conversation like he was an old friend. David thought this movie looked good. David recommended this restaurant. David. Meanwhile, I went on 2 more awkward dates that went nowhere. I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to flirt with strangers or pretend to be interested in their lives. I wanted my fiancée back. Maybe I'm just not out for this, I told her after another failed evening. That's okay, Sarah said, but she looked annoyed. Don't have to force it. But she was forcing it. Every success she had with David highlighted my failures. She'd come home glowing and satisfied while I felt more inadequate by the day. 3 weeks in, she dropped the David wants to take me away for the weekend. Nothing too far, just that bed and breakfast in Napa. My went cold. That's against our rules. No sleepovers. It's not a sleepover, it's a mini vacation. Completely different. Sarah, we agreed. We agreed to be flexible and honest. This feels right, Jake. Don't want me to be happy. Of course I wanted her to be happy. That's why I'd agreed to this nightmare in the first place. But watching her pack a bag for another man felt like swallowing glass. 1 weekend, she promised. Then we'll reevaluate the rules. She left Friday morning with a suitcase in that same excited glow. I spent the weekend drinking and wondering how everything had gone so wrong so fast. She came back Sunday night different, quieter, secretive. Her phone buzzed constantly, and she'd smile at messages for quickly closing the screen. Good weekend, I asked. Really good. David's special. The word hit like a punch to the gut. That's when I started paying attention. Really paying attention. Sarah's story had holes. She'd supposedly just met David 3 weeks ago, but she knew way too much about his favorite books, his college stories, his family drama. Details that take months to learn, not a few coffee dates. I started watching her phone habits. She'd always been open about her text before, showing me funny memes or work drama. Now she angled the screen away, took calls in the other room. One morning I saw a text preview before she grabbed her phone. Missing already, beautiful. Last night was incredible, David. At 7 a.m. On a Wednesday. The pieces started falling into place. Her sudden interest in opening our relationship. Marcus the coworker feeding her articles and advice. Her immediate readiness with a first date. This wasn't about exploration or growth or any of the pretty words she'd used. This was about David. And I was the who'd given her permission to destroy us. It started small. Checking the browser history on our shared laptop. Looking at her call logs when she left her phone charging. Following her social media activity like a. What I found made me sick. Sarah had been liking David's photos for 8 months. 8 months, long before her sudden interest in opening our relationship. Comments going back to January. Looking good with heart eye emojis. I was there, on his vacation. I scrolled through months of digital flirtation hiding in plain sight. Inside jokes that made no sense if they just met at a coffee shop. References to conversations I'd never heard about. The worst part, I'd been in the background of this whole thing, clueless and trusting. I found their real first meeting in her calendar app. Coffee with Marcus and David from 6 months ago. Marcus, her helpful coworker who'd educated her about open relationships. Marcus, who apparently played wingman while I planned our wedding. My hands shook as I screenshotted everything. The evidence was overwhelming, but I needed more. I needed to know exactly how deep this went. The next morning, Sarah me goodbye like nothing had changed. Working late tonight, she said. Budget meeting with the team. I checked her location an hour later. She was at David's apartment complex. That's when something inside me broke. Not heartbreak this time. Something colder, harder. I'd been playing defense while she rewrote the rules of our entire relationship. Time to change strategies. I called in sick to work and went to see Marcus. He worked at a marketing firm downtown. One of those trendy office of exposed brick and beanbag chairs. I waited in the lobby until he came down for lunch. Jake, hey man, what are doing here? Marcus looked nervous. Good, just wanted to chat about Sarah's new hobby, I said casually. The open marriage thing been coaching her on. His face went pale. I don't know what mean. It out, Marcus. I know introduced her to David. I know been feeding her articles and advice. What I don't know is why. He glanced around the busy lobby, then gestured toward a quiet corner. When we sat down, he looked like a man heading to his. Look, it's not what think. Then tell me what it is. Marcus ran his hands through his hair. Sarah came to me about 6 months ago. She said she was having doubts about getting married. Cold feet, no. She'd met David at that work mixer in January and couldn't stop thinking about him. My chest felt hollow. Go on. I told her to talk to. Work through it. But she said never understand. Or too traditional. Traditional. Like wanting fiancé to not cheat was some outdated concept. So helped her manipulate me instead. She said if she could just explore this feeling, get it out of her system, she'd be able to commit to fully. The open marriage was supposed to be temporary. Just long enough for her to figure out what she really wanted. I stared at him. And believed that. I thought maybe she was right. Maybe if she got to explore she'd realize we're the right choice. But that's not what happened, is it? He shook his head. She's in love with him, Jake. Really in love. She talks about David constantly. I think she's planning to what? To break with. After the wedding planning is too far along to back out gracefully. She thinks it'll look better if she tries the open marriage first, then realizes are incompatible. The lobby around us buzzed with normal people having normal lunches while my world collapsed completely. She's using me to plan and pay for a wedding that's never gonna happen. Marcus nodded miserably. I'm sorry man. I really am. I thought I was helping. I left Marcus sitting there and drove home in a daze. Our apartment felt different now. The photos of us looked like lies. The wedding planning materials scattered on the dining room table looked like props in an elaborate performance. I sat at our kitchen table and started making lists. Jakered credit cards. The lease on our apartment, the wedding deposits, the engagement ring that cost me 3 months of salary. Then I made another list, all of Sarah's lies. All of her manipulations. Every time she'd made me feel guilty for being traditional, or jealous, when I was just being a normal person who didn't want to be cheated on. By the time Sarah came home from her budget meeting, at 11 p.m. I had a plan. Hey, she said, kissing my cheek. She smelled like David's Cologne again. How was day? Good, I laughed smoothly. Really good actually. I've been thinking about us. About this whole open marriage thing. She froze halfway to the refrigerator. Yeah, think her right. I was being too possessive before. Too traditional. This could really be Gleef on her face was. Really? Mean that? Absolutely. In fact, I want to take it further. Now she looked confused. Further how? I smiled my most loving smile. I think we should be completely open about it. Tell our families. Our friends. Post about it on social medias, let's own it. No shame, right? Sarah's face went white. Jake, I don't think. What's wrong? I thought wanted honesty. Transparency. Breaking societal constraints. I do, but our families wouldn't understand. Then we'll educate them. Like educated me. I already started. I told my parents today. That was a lie, but Sarah didn't need to know that yet. What? I told them how happy I've been. How much this has improved our relationship. My mom was surprised, but she just wants us to be happy. Sarah looked like she was going to be sick. Jake can't just. And I'm thinking we should tell everyone at Mike's wedding next weekend. No, when all our friends are together. Really normalize this for our social circle. Mike was her college roommate. His wedding was going to be the social event of our year. Everyone we knew would be there. Including David, who I'd learned was Mike's cousin. We can't do that, Sarah said quickly. It's Mike's day. We shouldn't make it about us. Alright. Maybe we should have our own party. An engagement party where we announce our open marriage. Really celebrate this new chapter. I was enjoying watching her panic. For months she'd painted me as the backward one, the one holding us back from enlightenment. Now she was scrambling to contain her own creation. I need some air, she said, grabbing her keys. We're going just for a drive, to think. She was gonna David's. I knew it. But I didn't care anymore. Let her run to him. Let her explain how her perfect manipulation was falling apart. While she was gone, I made more phone calls. Real ones this time. I called my brother, who was a lawyer. I called my best man who worked in banking. I called the wedding planner. By the time Sarah came back 2 hours later, I'd laid the groundwork for my own plan. Feel better? I asked when she walked in. She looked terrible, pale and shaken. Jake, we need to talk. About what? About us, about this whole thing. I think maybe we're moving too fast. I tilted my head innocently. With the open marriage. But Sarah, this was idea. Dream. I'm finally on board. And now wanna slow down. It's more complicated than I thought. How so? She sat across from me at the kitchen table. The same table where she'd first brought this insane plan. I think maybe we should pause the whole thing. Go back to just us for a while. Cause I wanna be public about it. Because. She struggled for words. Because I realized I don't wanna share. The lie came so easily to her. Even now, caught red-handed, she was trying to manipulate me. That's interesting, I said, because I've been doing some thinking too. Yeah. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery. Screenshots of her comments on David's photos. Screenshots of her location history. Screenshots of text message previews. I've been thinking about how I met David at that coffee shop 3 weeks ago. Except actually met him 6 months ago at a work mixer. I've been thinking about how Marcus just happened to have all those articles about open relationships ready to share. I've been thinking about how we're never exploring anything new. Sarah's face crumbled as I kept scrolling. We're just trying to legitimize cheating on me with someone we're already in love with. Jake, please. The only question I have left is whether we're planning to leave me before or after our wedding. My guess is after. Let me pay for the party, then dump me for being incompatible with evolved relationship needs. Tears started rolling down her cheeks. Real ones for the first time in months. Wasn't supposed to happen like this. How was it supposed to happen? I was supposed to get him out of my system. Choose us. I almost let to believe that. Packed a bag and spent a weekend with him. Sarah. Text him good morning every day. Light when talk about him. We're never getting him out of system. She cried harder. I love to Jake. I do. No, don't. Love the idea of me. The security. The wedding. The we planned. But don't love me. I stood from the table. Here's what's gonna happen. Tomorrow, we're gonna call everyone and tell them the engagement is off. The real reason. Not some mutual decision or incompatibility garbage. The truth. I can't. Then I will. And my version will include screenshots. Her crying turned to panic. Jake, please. We can work through this. There's no anymore Sarah. There's David, and there's me getting my back. I headed toward our bedroom to pack a bag. We're going to my brother's. Can have the apartment until the lease is. Fair warning though, I'm telling everyone exactly what happened. Family, my family, our friends. Everyone, are destroying both our lives. I turned back to look at her one last time. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her perfect manipulation finally falling apart. No Sarah. Already did that. I'm just making sure everyone knows who really did the destroying. The next morning I started with Sarah's parents. Her mom answered on the second ring, probably expecting wedding updates. Jake, how are the centerpiece arrangements coming along? Actually Mrs. Chen, that's why I'm calling. The wedding's off. Silence. Then, what do you mean off? Sarah has been having an affair. She manipulated me into agreeing to an open marriage so she could cheat legally. When I found out, she tried to gaslight me into thinking it was my fault for being too traditional. That can't be right. Sarah would never. I have screenshots of her flirting with him for 8 months. Location data showing her at his apartment when she told me she was working late. Text messages, everything. Mrs. Chen's voice turned cold. Send them to me. I did. Then I called my own parents, my best man, the wedding party, our close friends. Each conversation was easier than the last. The evidence was overwhelming. The story was consistent. By noon, my phone was blowing with supportive messages. By evening, Sarah's social media had gone quiet. The real test came at Mike's wedding that weekend. I almost didn't go. My brother said I should skip it, avoid the drama. But I'd been hiding from this situation for months. Time to face it head on. The ceremony was beautiful. Mike and his bride looked genuinely happy, the way Sarah and I never had. Real joy, not performance. At the reception I found my table and sat down alone. Sarah was supposed to be my +1. Her empty chair felt like a victory. Jakey. I turned to find David standing behind me. He looked uncomfortable, fidgeting with his tie. Can we talk? Sure. We walked to a quiet corner of the venue. David kept glancing around like he was afraid someone might overhear. I wanted to apologize, he said. I didn't know the whole story until this week. What did think the story was? Sarah told me guys had mutually agreed to explore other relationships. That we're seeing people too and really happy with the arrangement. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. She lied to both of us. Miserably, she's been calling me constantly since Tuesday. Crying, begging me to help fix this. What did tell her? That I can't be with someone who would do that to their fiancé. Who would lie to everyone involved. He looked at me. I really thought knew. I wasn't okay with any of it. I was manipulated. I know that now. And I'm sorry. Really sorry. I studied his face. He seemed genuine, ashamed. Nothing like the confident guy from Sarah's Instagram stories. What's Sarah doing now? Last I heard she moved back in with her parents. She keeps saying she made a mistake, that she chose wrong. She didn't choose wrong, David. She got caught. Yeah, I think you're right. David walked away looking defeated. I almost felt sorry for him too. Sarah had used him just like she'd used me, just in different ways. The rest of the wedding was awkward but manageable. People came to me all night offering support. Sarah's friends looked embarrassed. My friends looked angry on my behalf. I always thought she was too good to be true. My buddy Tom said during dinner, nobody's that perfect all the time. He was right. Sarah's perfection had been a performance. The loving fiancé act, the supportive partner routine, the excited bride to be show, all of it designed to keep me compliant while she planned her escape. The real fallout started the following week. Sarah's boss called me Tuesday morning. She'd quit her job without notice, apparently too humiliated to face Marcus and her other coworkers who knew about the situation. She was a good employee, he said. But this whole thing has been really disruptive. Marcus feels terrible about his part in it. Good. Marcus should feel terrible. The wedding vendors were surprisingly understanding. Most refunded my deposits when I explained the situation. The venue manager even seemed impressed by my thoroughness in documenting everything. Handled this very professionally, she said. Much better than most people do when these things fall apart. These things, like elaborate betrayal, was just another wedding planning hiccup. The hardest part was returning the engagement ring. I'd bought it from a family jeweler downtown, spent weeks picking out the perfect setting. The owner remembered me. Change of facts. He didn't ask for details. Just processed the return and shook my hand. Better to know now than later, he said. 2 months after everything exploded, I ran into Sarah at the grocery store. She looked terrible. Hollow cheeks, stringy hair, dark circles under her eyes. The confident woman who'd convinced me to destroy my own relationship was gone. Jake. Sarah. We stood in the cereal aisle like strangers, which I realized we'd always been. I'd never really known this person who could lie so casually, manipulate so skillfully. How are doing? She asked. Better every day. I've been wanting to call Ball. Don't. I know I messed, but Jake, we had that count for something. I looked at her closely. Even now, even after everything, she was trying to rewrite history. Make it about our good times instead of her betrayal. Did we? Or were just a better actress back then? Her face crumpled. It wasn't all. How would know? Lied so much I don't remember what was real anymore. I loved what I could give. Stability, security, a nice wedding. But never loved me enough to be honest. Never loved me enough to not cheat. Sarah started crying right there between the Cheerios and the cornflakes. Other shoppers stared as they walked by. I made a mistake, Jake. Can't we try again? What happened to David? She wiped her eyes. I won't return my calls. Says he can't trust me after what I did to. Of course. David had seen exactly who Sarah really was and wanted nothing to do with her. Just like everyone else in her. I'm alone, she whispered. That's what happens when betray everyone who cares about. I walked away and left her crying in the cereal aisle. 6 months later, I heard through mutual friends that Sarah had moved across the country. Started over somewhere new where nobody knew her story. I'd started dating again by then. Slowly, carefully. I were cautious, better at spotting red flags. The woman I was seeing, Jessica, was refreshingly direct. No games, no manipulation, no hidden agendas. Seemed guarded sometimes, she said one evening over dinner. Bad previous relationship. Cheating, worse. Systematic manipulation disguised as progressive relationship values. Jessica raised her eyebrows. That sounds like a story. It is. Want to hear it? I told her everything. Sarah's manipulation, my naivety, the whole sordid mess. Jessica listened without judgment, asked thoughtful questions, never once suggested I'd brought it on. She sounds like a sociopath, Jessica said when I finished. I don't think she meant to be cruel. I think she genuinely believed her own lies, convinced herself she was doing something enlightened instead of just cheating. Does that make it better or worse? I thought about it. Worse. At least honest cheating is honest. This was calculated deception with a social justice wrapper. Jessica reached across the table and took my hand. I'm sorry that happened to nobody deserves that. Simple words, but they meant everything. After months of Sarah making me feel crazy for wanting basic honesty and loyalty, Jessica's straightforward sympathy felt revolutionary. A year later, Jessica and I moved in together. No games, no manipulation, no hidden boyfriends. Just two adults who chose each other and meant it. I still think about Sarah sometimes. Wonder if she learned anything from losing everything. Wonder if she ever tells people the real reason her engagement ended, or if she's crafted some victim narrative where I was the controlling one. Probably the latter. People like Sarah don't usually develop self-awareness. They just find new people to manipulate. The last I heard, she was engaged again. Some guy she met at her new job. I almost felt bad for him. Oh, that's not my responsibility anymore. Sarah had her chance at a real relationship. She chose manipulation instead. She chose lies over honesty, selfishness over love, temporary excitement over permanent happiness. She got exactly what she deserved. Where nobody trusts her, cause she proved she can't be trusted. And me, I got exactly what I deserved too, where I know what real love looks like. Because I finally learned what love looks like. Sometimes I drive by that Italian restaurant where Sarah first brought the open marriage. The same place where she looked me in the eye and made destroying our relationship sound like relationship growth. I never go in anymore. But I always remember the lesson I learned there that night. When someone tries to convince that betrayal is actually freedom, they're not offering liberation, they're offering a prison where we'll be the only one locked inside.